All right, thanks everybody. So thanks for the nice introduction there. So what we're talking about today is bridging profit and purpose. And the whole goal of what I want to talk about is how we can take our for-profit businesses and merge them with nonprofits or partner with nonprofits to provide a lot of good on both sides, you know, the synergy. And this can be kind of hard to envision because everybody's coming from a different spot. So how many people here are business owners or business leaders, business managers? So the large majority, that's awesome, because who's here coming from the nonprofit side? Perfect. And who's both? Anybody both? Oh, we got a few of those? Perfect. So that's exactly who I was planning on talking to, so I'm glad you guys are here. If nobody said that, it's gonna be real quiet, a little awkward. So what we want to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of background on myself, and it's hard to vision a lot of times how you can do this, because you guys, nobody here is going to be able to do exactly what we do, right? Because I'm in a different business world, I'm in a different niche than you guys are in. But what I want to do is I want to talk about what we do at Fix It Forward and Auto Care and Fix It Forward Ministry, how we got here, what we've learned along the way, the benefits for both the shop side and our nonprofit side, and then some of the tips and tricks that we've learned in doing this so that you guys can kind of see this. And I want you guys to be thinking as we go through this, how can you do something like this, or how could this apply to your business, your niche, or what you're doing, or your nonprofit if you're looking to go that way. A lot of times, I mostly talk to business owners trying to figure out how to add a nonprofit side because they have the ability to do that. But I actually started from the nonprofit side and went into the business world. So they certainly can go both directions. And you don't have to start both of them. A lot of times you can just find partnerships. So a little bit about me. I'm from Fargo, Moorhead area. I grew up in Moorhead. I then went to NDSU, and I now currently live in Fargo. I've been a member of Hope Lutheran Church here since I was 3, so I've been here for quite a while. I'm married. I've got 5 kids. Interestingly, all of my kids are adopted, and most of them are from Ukraine. So that's been a kind of tough time for us, as we've got a lot of connections in Ukraine that are struggling right now. I went to NDSU to be a software engineer. I wanted to, originally actually I was going to be an electrical engineer. I just switched over to software engineering because I wanted to get a job in Fargo. And I ended up working at Microsoft for about 15 years, as she had said. So engineering and the software is really where my career has been most of my life. Because before I went to Microsoft, I worked at a couple other startup companies. But I've always been a car guy. Like, this has been a passion that I've had since I was a kid. My dad collected cars and restored them, so I grew up with that stuff. I love old cars. I love antiques. I love muscle cars. I love performance cars. I like big trucks. I've always loved that genre. And so therefore, that's what my hobbies have really been. And so I took this passion for cars, and originally, my big thing I love to do is find old cars that have been parked for a long time and fix them up and get them back on the road again. And then I put them in my shed and I go get another one. But then I started thinking about that, like I get this, shed full of cars, and I started thinking, like, how many cars does one person really need? And I don't know that number yet, but when I find out, I can tell you. But I really enjoy the car thing. Like, I tried to do other stuff, and I kept coming back to cars because I'm passionate about it. But I did have a little bit of a guilty conscience feeling of, this seems very selfish, right? Like, I just keep, not that having a nice car or something like that is selfish, but if you spend all your time just to build more cars to put them in your sheds, and then you need to build more sheds, the Bible says some stuff about that, right? And so it just didn't feel quite right to me. And I thought, hey, maybe we could help other people with this. And there's a lot of people who struggle with transportation issues in our community. And we thought, hey, this would be cool if we just, found some way to help them. And I tried going about that a little bit, and it was a little bit, I didn't have a lot of success on figuring that out. And then I started talking with one of my coworkers at Microsoft. His name's Jeremy Jensen. And not only did he work with me at Microsoft, but we actually went to high school together. And then we both were car guys, and so we kept interacting. Then we both ended up at Microsoft working on the same team, and so we started talking a lot, and he had a strong faith also. And I shared my idea with him over lunch one day, and he loved it. And he's like, oh, we need to do this. And so let's try and make this happen. And so together, we put together this organization, which we call Fix It Forward Ministry, which is a nonprofit focused on solving the transportation issues for the neediest people in our community. And so we decided, hey, we're going to do this. Like, I have this whole shop at my farm. I lived on a farm just north of town. I've got this shop out there. We can work out of that space, but we need people to fix cars for, right? And so how do we find somebody to fix cars? The first thing we thought of is, okay, who needs car repair the most? Who is this the biggest problem for? And that became pretty clear that it's single moms, right? There's a lot of people who need transportation issues, and we work with a lot of people now. But when we started, it was really single moms that they have the biggest problem, and it still is. They have the biggest problem, and the reason is, like, logistically, if they're going to ride a bus and they've got to push multiple strollers and sit out at a bus stop, that doesn't work. If you want to get an Uber ride and you've got young kids, you have to provide the car seats for the Uber, or they won't give you a ride. And so you can't just hop in an Uber to go to the store unless you can carry that car seat around with you through the store. Like, it logistically just doesn't work. And you can't just hitch a ride with somebody if there's 4 of you, because they may not have 4 seats to get a ride. So logistically, they really struggle. So we thought, well, who helps single mothers around here that are struggling? And the first place we thought of was the YWCA, so the local women's shelter. So we went to them, and we actually went as Jeremy, myself, and then Pastor Paul Ninus here will be speaking, I think, tomorrow. We went all together to the YWCA, and we said, we would like to fix cars. Would this, like, we can take the cars and we can fix the problems with them and give them back to you. We don't want to charge anything for it. We just want to do some good. Is that something that you guys could use? And their first response was that that transportation was the number one barrier to independence for the people they work for. Like, transportation was their biggest problem at that point. Not that they didn't have other problems, but they had solutions for those. Right? These people that were staying in their shelter, they needed housing, they needed job training, they needed some mental health counseling, maybe they needed child care. But they had solutions for all of those things. What they didn't have was solutions for transportation. And we didn't even really realize that was the problem. We just knew that we wanted to fix cars, and this would be a great source for doing that. So the cool thing about talking to them is then they told us that, as we said, okay, this is what we want to do. They said, hey, you know what's important? If you're going to run a nonprofit helping these people, you need to put some boundaries in place to make sure that you're not causing bigger problems than you're solving, right? So we're helping some people that are in really challenging times. We need to put some boundaries up to protect them and to protect your volunteers. And these are things that I'm a computer guy and a car guy, I don't know the first thing about this. But by working with them, they were able to help us build out a set of processes right away that we still use now, almost 10 years later, to help keep everything safe and make sure that we don't run into other issues with helping our clients. So it's really, really helpful. So we started our nonprofit, and we started working with them, and we'd go there, we'd take the cars, we'd bring them to our shop, we'd fix them, we'd bring them back, and then we got kind of caught up. We got caught up with them, and we said, okay, well, we can help more people. So then we went over to the Rape and Abuse Crisis Center, right? They work with the same people, and we started working with them, and then we got caught up, and then we started breaking into other areas, and we started looking at the homeless shelters, and then we realized there's a lot of need there, right? Transportation's a huge problem. Then we started looking at the people coming out of recovery. They don't have cars anymore. The people coming out of the prison system, right? They lost their vehicle. They need transportation. The mental health organizations, job service, veterans. Like, there's so many different organizations that have this need, and we started just partnering with these organizations. And as we did that, we started really discovering how deep the need was. Like, remember, we went into this because we wanted to fix cars because it's fun. Like we just like taking things apart. And we didn't realize, like, I've never been without transportation. I came from a middle-class family. I've had, my cars have broken before, but I've been able to get them fixed. I've never been really struggling without transportation. And so we started working with people that are really struggling, and we found out just how bad the need really was. And we talked to one lady, and we had given her a car, we'd given her a van, and then we talked to her afterwards a little bit, and she told us, and we didn't even know this up front, but she told us that how life-changing this was because she used to take the bus. And we met her through the YWCA. She came out of a very abusive relationship, and she used to have to ride the bus to go places, which isn't horrible unless your ex-abuser also rides the bus. And so every time she'd get on the bus, she had to think, is he going to be there? And if he is there, well, maybe he doesn't do something to her while she's on the bus, but where does she get off the bus? She can't get off the bus at home. He will know where she lives. She can't get off the bus at someplace random because he might follow her. Like, imagine the stress of every time you want to just go to a job interview or go to the grocery store and having to deal with something like that. Like, we had no idea. We just gave her a car. It wasn't a big deal to us. To her, it was life-changing because the amount of stress it was able to take off her every day. I mean, I can't imagine. I came here this morning, hopped in my truck and drove here. Didn't think twice about it. I didn't have to worry about, is somebody else going to be there? Is somebody going to threaten me? Is my life in danger? So we realize as we get into this that the need is way worse and way greater than we thought. And I think if you're probably going to find in your niche that you know that there's people in need, but you don't realize how impactful that need actually can be, or that helping that need can be. Another person that we talked to, this was a game changer for me. It actually re-steered my entire life. Is I was working at Microsoft and I got a phone call. And I used to carry a phone for the nonprofit side with me because we just had a cell phone. And this lady called me up and she said, hey, I need my car fixed. And I asked her about it, and she's like, she had a 99 Dodge Dakota with like 300,000 miles on it, which is pretty impressive in itself. But she needed to get her car fixed, and she told me what was wrong with it. I said, yeah, we can probably do that. But just so you know, we want to set expectations, right? So we're a nonprofit. We do this all on a volunteer basis after hours. We're about 6 weeks behind, right? Because there's a lot of need in the community. And she said, that doesn't work for me. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what everybody says, right? Nobody wants, I'm not patient either. Nobody wants to wait. And so I asked her why, and I was expecting her to tell me that, she had to get her kids to daycare, or maybe she had to she had a doctor's appointment, or, I never miss bingo on Tuesdays, right? And instead, she comes around and she tells me that she just gotten a call from the sheriff's department, and her abusive ex was going to be getting out of prison in 2 weeks, and they needed to get her and her kids out of this part of the country, so he couldn't find them. And I was just floored. Like, I didn't even know where to go from that. And she continued on, and she said, but she's working with the YWCA and the Rape Abuse Crisis Center, and they had a plan to put together. They knew where she was going to go. They knew how to get there. They had everything except for a car. And she had a car, it just didn't work. So the missing piece that they had was to get this vehicle working. And I was just floored. I'm like, okay, well, ignore everything I said earlier. We've now put this, you're at the front of the list, right? Top priority, I'm going to come get your vehicle tonight. And I'm going to I had a tow truck. I'm just going to go get it. I'm going to bring it to the shop. We're going to figure out what we can do. But then the real problem for me happened is it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm at Microsoft. I'm supposed to keep working. And what was really bad was we were in the middle of big projects. And, at Microsoft, I wrote accounting software. And for those of you who aren't familiar, the only thing more boring than accounting is accounting software. Just in case anybody's wondering. Sorry for any accountants out there, but it's true. And the problem, we were in between big projects, so we were doing cleanup work. And my next task to do was to fix a typo and an error message buried deep in the project. Nobody ever saw this thing. It was completely pointless, but it needed to get done, and that was the next thing on my list. And if you do software in large projects, there's a lot of process required to do this. I had to make the change, get it code reviewed, run through all this testing process. Like, it was going to take me most of the rest of the day just to make this one trivial change. And I couldn't focus on it because all I could think of was doing this menial task. We're saving a life, right? And how am I going to keep doing that? And so I managed to push through and change the code, but that was where I realized I couldn't keep doing this anymore, and I had to leave. My entire career was in software development. I worked for Microsoft, the largest software company. I made good money. I had great benefits, and I needed to leave that because I needed to do something with more purpose. I needed to be able to make that impact. And so I decided to leave, and I left Microsoft a few months later, and I talked to my manager, we put together a plan, and I decided to go run my nonprofit full-time. And so I left Microsoft, I started running the nonprofit, and then we really started growing, right? Because now I was putting all my effort into this, and we started growing really fast. And one secret for business owners, one secret that I discovered is it's really, you might want to write this down, it's really easy to grow if you give away all your services for free. So our nonprofit just starts skyrocketing, right? And we're growing and we're growing, and this is really fun. And then we start running into growing pains. And we had a few different growing pains. First of all, I have this shop that I built, and we could fit 4 cars in there. There was 2 lifts, and so that was, I mean, it's pretty nice for a personal shop, but it wasn't big enough for all the volunteers we're having in there, and everybody's bumping elbows, and we needed more shop space. And then we had parking problems. Like, people would donate cars to us, and once they donate it, we have to figure out what's wrong with it. We have to get the parts. We got to fix it. We got to test it. Then we got to transfer find somebody to give the car to, get the title transferred, get insurance on it, and then we can give them the car. So we're going to have that car for months, right, at a minimum, to try and get this car turned over. And so where do we put all those cars? And so they ended up in my yard at my farm. And I distinctly remember over Christmas of 2017, I had a dozen cars in my yard that were donated to us. And the problem is, as you guys know, in North Dakota, Minnesota, in the winter, a dozen cars quickly becomes a dozen snowbanks. And so logistically, we had problems working on them because the yard would get blown in and we couldn't even get to the cars. So we had a problem with our shop space. We had a problem with storage space. We had a problem with office space. There's paperwork and stuff that needs to be done, but we had no office to work out of. I spent most of my time when I'm doing stuff working off of my phone or my laptop in the tow truck, and I couldn't have other volunteers come and help me with that. So we needed some office space. And the biggest problem we had was we knew we needed insurance, and we found out the way we were organized, we were uninsurable. And that one caught me by surprise because I didn't think that was going to happen. And so what we did was first thing to describe what happened is if you go get insurance for an auto repair shop, it's called Garage Keepers Insurance. And they basically ask you 2 questions. How many ASE certified technicians work for you, and what is your revenue that you're going to do every month, projected revenue? And when the answer to both of those is 0, they're out. They have no idea, and I don't even blame them, right? They have no idea of how to assess what the actual need is, or the risk is for their organization, so they can't insure you. So then we thought, well, we got other plans. So we got a backup plan, and we call up the companies that do insure nonprofits. We call them up, and we're like, hey, we got this nonprofit. We want to get insurance. They said, great. What do you guys do? And we're like, well, we fix cars. Click. Like, just, they're out, right? Because auto repair is high liability, right? If we fix a car and the tire falls off and kills somebody, it comes back on us. And so that didn't work. So we had one last plan, and I happen to have 2 cousins on opposite sides of the family that both work for insurance companies as underwriters that offer Garage Keepers insurance. Like, the people I needed to talk to, they don't even know each other. They're opposite sides of the family, different companies. And so I went to both of them and I said, hey, I need insurance. Figure it out. That's what you do, right? And so they're like, no problem. We'll go talk to our people and we'll come back. And a couple weeks later, they come back to me and they're like, there's no way. Like, we can't insure that. There's no way for us to assess the need. You're so far away from what a normal shop would do that we just can't do this. But one of them said, hey, there's one way that we found. And that one thing that we could do is you could partner with an existing shop that has insurance and get a rider on their policy. And if you could do that, then you could get insurance. And I'm like, well, that's great. So all I got to do is go up to a shop and say, hey, I just want to add a whole bunch of liability to your policy, and might risk your entire business and your house and stuff, but maybe not. I'm not that good of a salesman. So I realized that didn't work. But we had 4 problems, right? We had a lack of shop space, which is expensive. We had a lack of parking space. We had no office space, and we needed insurance. And we needed a way to fix that without increasing our overhead, because I was the primary fundraiser, and I got into this because I like fixing cars, not raising money. So how do we keep our overhead costs as low as possible? So we thought, let's just start an auto repair shop. Let's start a small business. How hard can it be? So we found out. We started an auto repair shop. I hired a couple technicians. I hired a manager because I knew I didn't know what I was doing. We got a building, and we opened up. We thought we're doing great. We got customers coming in. We're fixing cars. The cars are going out. This is really cool. Then as we started getting going a few months in, we started getting all of our accounting together, and we realized we're just losing a lot of money, and that wasn't sustainable. And so we recognized that we really didn't know what we were doing. I had no business being in this business, but we needed to figure it out, because now I started getting really nervous, because if we've combined or partnered so tightly our nonprofit and this for-profit, and it was working so good for the nonprofit, but if we lost the for-profit, we might lose the nonprofit. And so for months going on, I'm like, I don't know how to solve this problem. And I don't want to dwell on this a lot, but what we ended up doing was I found a coaching company that coaches auto repair shops, that specializes in our business. And so I was able to work with them, and we were able to really turn around how we run our shop. And in doing so, we were able to stop losing money, which was a really great first start. And then we were able to start actually making it profitable. And you can't, like Steve was saying, you can't help other people if your business isn't successful. Like if you've got you can't pull in people into your lifeboat if your lifeboat is sinking. And so we had to make this a successful run business, and then we were able to start growing. And then that growth was able to continue going, and that was a game changer for our for-profit, which also became a game changer for our nonprofit. So a little bit, our nonprofit, Fix It Forward Ministry, we started in 2015. We are a 501c3, so we're an incorporated business with the 501c3 designation. This is really important if you want other people to be able to participate in what you're doing. If you want to have other people be able to donate, if you want credibility as being a nonprofit, if you want people to be able to volunteer, a lot of organizations are going to require that. We have given away 527 cars now in the Fargo-Moorhead community to date. So we give away a lot of cars. And we've done over 1,200 free car repairs in this community. So we really have been able to keep our focus on doing what we do best, which is fixing cars, whether we're giving away or we're fixing a car for somebody else who already has a car. Because obviously it's more efficient to fix their car than to give them a second car. And our nonprofit now has 3 full-time employees. We still operate off of almost entirely volunteer labor as far as fixing the cars and doing most of our paperwork, but we do have 3 full-time people that are making sure all the operation stuff and logistics go, and that we're planning our events and all that stuff. So our for-profit shop, Fix It Forward Auto Care, we started that in 2018, so we're about 6.5 years into this. We have 4 locations in the Fargo-Moorhead community now. We have 52 full-time employees, plus some part-time. We did 1.1 million last month in revenue, so we do quite a bit of volume of work. And we work on about 1,800 to 2,000 cars a month in the auto repair shop. So we do a large amount of volume, which gives us the opportunity on the nonprofit to be able to be not as resource limited as we used to be. So a few examples, our motto is grow the shop to grow the nonprofit, right? The more we can grow the shop side, the more we can grow the nonprofit. And when we first started in my farm, as I was saying, we had 2 lifts. And that was hard because we were trying to work on more than 2 cars at a time. Sometimes the car gets stuck on a lift because you can't get the right part. And that's what we had available to us. And we were pretty happy to have 2 lifts. Now across our 4 shops, we have 41 lifts. And so we just are no longer limited by that resource, which used to be a major limitation for us. We have other limitations now, but those things are certainly gone. So it really has helped. So a little bit about our partnership between our nonprofit and for-profit. So our for-profit is just a regular LLC. Just like most of you probably are. Our nonprofit is incorporated because you have to be a corporation to be a nonprofit. LLCs have owners, and nonprofits can't have owners. That's kind of the definition of them. And so we have a completely separate organization for that. Our nonprofits and for-profit, they are completely separate legally and completely separate financially, but tightly coupled organizationally. So we work together very closely, but all of our books and all of our financials are, everything is completely separate. And part of that is because it makes sense, and a lot of it is because the IRS told me that was the only way we could do it. I had a conversation with them with the nonprofit saying, hey, I want to just get some people to pay me to fix cars, then we can use that to pay for stuff. And they're like, no, that's just not going to. No. And but in hindsight, that would have been the easy way to get into this. But in hindsight, this was the right solution for us to do this because complicating the two would have really been hard on both organizations if we did it both ways. So a few of the benefits for the nonprofit. And so this is what I want you thinking about. What do we get out of this? And our nonprofit, first of all, we get insurance now, right? We got free insurance, not just insurance, but we went from uninsurable to insured for free, which is a pretty great thing to have on our nonprofit. And because we're trying really hard to reduce overhead. And part of the reason why we work really hard to keep our overhead low is because, as you guys know, overhead is just lost, right? That's a waste. And so we want to keep that gone so we can use any of the resources we have to make an impact. And part of it is, much of it is because we want to be really good stewards of what we do, of the money that's donated to us. The other part of it is a little bit more selfish on my behalf, is because I'm the largest donor and I don't want to waste the money that I donate, right? I don't want to be donating money and knowing that we're just wasting this on things that isn't really making an impact. So we try really hard to keep our overhead low. And so one way we do that is the shop covers our insurance costs. The shop covers pays for the rent for the shop space. Shop space is not cheap, and the shop's paying for all of that. The nonprofit uses it after hours and on weekends. The shop's paying for the parking lots. We have lots of parking spots. Right now, at any given time, we have around 40 cars donated to us in our possession. Where do you put those? Well, we need parking lots. We need fenced-in parking lots so nobody messes with them. And so we get that. The shop pays for all that. So the nonprofit gets all that for free. And then office space is also important, that we have multiple offices at our different shops that our nonprofit can use for the work that they do. We also get access to the shop, not just the space in the shop, but all the major tools, all the lifts, all the tire machines, the balancers, the welder, the AC machines, like all this expensive equipment the shop gets the nonprofit gets because the shop has to have it, right? And so therefore the nonprofit can use it at no cost. And this is a big deal because, for example, alignment machines, a new alignment machine costs, with the lift that goes with it, the special lift, costs about $80,000. Our nonprofit was never going to have an alignment machine. Our shop has to do the work it does. So now our nonprofit went from never having a potential of getting an alignment machine to, we have 4 of them. There's one at each location. And so they always have access to that. Our nonprofit doesn't pay for any utilities, anything, like all the electricity, phone, internet, like the shop pays for all that. So that's completely gone. Some other great things that come out with is like our marketing. So I don't want to spend nonprofit money, donated money on marketing. That seems a waste, but we have to do marketing. And so in order to do that, we go through, our shop does do marketing. We spend quite a bit of money on marketing on that. We focus a lot of energy on good marketing on the shop side. And we work with places like radio stations where we say, hey, if we do some radio ads, we buy 10 minutes of radio ads, can you give us 2 minutes of nonprofit ads for free? And so the shop buys ads, and then the radio stations throw in nonprofit stuff for free, so our nonprofit doesn't have to pay for that stuff. We do a lot of mailers in our shop. I don't know if any of you guys are in the areas around our shops, but you've probably received mailers from us. Our mailers have a section talking about our nonprofit, telling the story of what we're doing. So there's a lot of people out there who've got cars they don't want anymore. They don't know what to do with them, right? Especially this time of the year when snow's coming and they want them out of the driveway. Well, they can read this story and say, hey, wait a second, I can donate to them. It's going to be used for a good purpose. That's very useful, but our nonprofit isn't going to send mailers to every house in Fargo-Moorhead. Our for-profit sends a bunch of mailers out, and while they pay for all of it, but the nonprofit gets their stuff in there for free. And the other part is we've got a marketing team that does a lot of our marketing, and the shop has hired this marketing team, and when the nonprofit needs stuff, we need to build some documents or something like that, that team builds that. So we're able to have a very strong marketing presence without having to pay for all that marketing. Some other benefits that we found that I wasn't even really planning on was one is getting better deals with vendors. We buy a lot of parts. Our nonprofit buys quite a few parts. It's one of our biggest expenses. Well, we only have 2 expenses, right? We've got the 3 employees and we have parts. That's our expenses. And we worked with different vendors, or I should say partners, after listening to Steve. We worked with them to say, hey, can we get a great deal on this because we're a nonprofit? And they would give us deals on stuff, but they had limited ability to do that. And so most of the places we work with are large corporate organizations, and they've got corporate rules. The other places that we work with are small, locally owned, and they really wanted to help, but their overhead was a lot higher, so they had limited ability to help. And so we didn't get the deals that I really wanted to on stuff like that on a consistent basis, until we had a shop that's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on buying parts. That shop gets really good deals on stuff because we get volume discounts, and now our nonprofit gets included on that. So we get better prices for the nonprofit because of the volume that we're able to do with our for-profit. We also get a lot of relationships. Our shop, because there's 50 some odd people there and we're doing so much volume and work, we build a lot of relationships, strong relationships with other vendors, other partners, organizations, other shops. And so when our nonprofit needs something, we have this source of relationships of people that we work with that are able to work with us, and that's been very helpful. It really helps us with credibility. There's a lot of people who don't trust nonprofits. There's a lot of people out there who think that they're scams, they're just trying to get free stuff, that they aren't actually doing good in the world. And if you do any looking, you can see the good that they're doing, but a lot of people immediately don't trust that. And there are a lot of nonprofits that are fly-by-night. We aren't the only business in Fargo-Moorhead or nonprofit in Fargo-Moorhead that's been trying to help people with transportation needs. We are the only one that's left, right? Other ones have started and kind of gone, but they have not stuck around as well. And so that credibility we get by having the big brick and mortars and the volume has been really helpful. And the last thing that is another side benefit is our nonprofit. I talked about the coaching that we do, the coaching company that we work with. I actually work for them. I'm one of their coaches. But being part of that, being part of other business networking groups on the shop side, the nonprofit isn't going to spend money on that, but the for-profit will. And because they're already in the room, then we're able to get that advisory information from the nonprofit. And we're in a lot of these groups, so we sit down, we discuss problems that the nonprofit is having and how we can work our way through that. So on the for-profit side, we've got some benefits for that too, right? So why is this good for your for-profit? The number one thing that I think is it's a huge differentiator between businesses, right? There's a lot of competition in town, and why do people go to your organization versus something else? Now, I know in our shop, we're faster than almost every shop in town. We've got a better warranty. We've got better customer service. Like, we do a lot of things to try and be better, provide a better value to our customers. But the reality is everybody says that, right? And so how do you set yourself apart? Well, being able to give back in the community in a very large and undeniable way really differentiates you from somebody else. And there's certain customers that hear that and love it. And we've had a lot of customers say, hey, you know what? I used to go to this other shop and they were fine, but now I come here because I want to support what you guys are doing. I want to be part of what you're doing for our community. I understand the impact that makes, and I want to be part of that. There's other people that say, wow, that seems like a headache. I don't know why you're wasting your time doing all that. And that's okay. Like, there's some people that don't like that. They aren't attracted to us. That's okay, because they're not really great people to work with anyway. So we can just let those people, you can't please everybody. I just heard about that. a few minutes ago, Steve saying it. But what we do is we end up attracting the kind of people that we want to work with. And another thing that's really great about it is it provides a big sense of purpose for our team. Like, why did I leave Microsoft? Because I didn't have any purpose. I wasn't making an impact. Nobody leaves my organization because they don't feel like they're making a difference in the world. It holds them in there, and they want to be part of it, and they love it. Like if you're wearing a Fix It Forward shirt, you just got done with work and you go to the grocery store or go to a restaurant, people get stopped all the time and say, oh, I love what you guys do. You helped my mom, you helped my sister, my cousin. Like it feels great to know that you're part of an organization that's doing stuff like that. Another huge one is, a benefit is recruiting. So when we're trying to recruit people, it's a differentiator again. Like there's a lot of auto repair shops in town. They're all trying to hire technicians. They're all trying to hire service advisors. Why do people want to come work for me versus someplace else? Well, again, we're giving back to the community in ways that nobody else is. And so it allows us to differentiate. And along the same line as with the customers, some people really respect that and say, man, I want to be part of something that does that helps in the community. Some people think it's a waste of time. The people who love it come talk to us. That's great. Those are the people I want on my team. They're the people that care for other people, that care for the community. So we attract the type of team players that really are givers versus the people that tend to be fairly selfish and are just worried about what their paycheck is. They're probably going to go look someplace else because they think that we're wasting our time and energy on stuff, and that's okay. They can go someplace else. We can't please everybody. So for recruiting, this has been really huge. We found a lot of times what we see is the spouses of our team members love them working for us, and if your spouse loves the job, then people are a lot less likely to go somewhere. So we have very, very low turnover because of that. And this just really, this allows you to be able to just do good at a level that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. So a few things just thinking about why you should do this. The first one is, as a business owner or business operator, you've got skills and tools to do stuff, right? You have the ability to do things in your niche better than most people can. And so why not take that tool and use it for other people? You can help people with way less effort than other people can. I look at this and I spend a lot of time helping regular auto repair shops start a nonprofit side to them. And that's part of the reason why I do my coaching is all over the US, I talk to these other auto repair shops and help them start nonprofits. And it is so easy for them to do that because they already have all the systems. They know the domain. They have all the partners in place. And so it's very easy for them to do that. And the same with your business, you have all these connections. So if you want to start helping people, here's a really easy way to get into that. And so, one example is, if let's say you're a tax accountant, right, and you decide you want to help somebody, you can help maybe the elderly do their taxes. Say, hey, I'm going to help 24 people this year that do their taxes that won't be able to, or they're struggling to do it elsewise. It's really, really easy for you to do that because you know the domain versus somebody else who wants to help people and get in a domain that they don't know. The other thing that I think is really important is because you know how to run a successful business, you can run the nonprofit with the same organization and efficiency that you do in a regular business in the nonprofit. This is a problem with the nonprofit world. Not all nonprofits by any means, but there's a lot of nonprofits out there that are run really inefficiently. And I think that's partially because they don't feel that they need to be competitive. And it's partially because I think the nonprofit world attracts people who don't want to have to fight to win. And because of that, they pull back. And the problem I have with this is, again, because of my coaching, I get to see a lot of people's financials and businesses. And one of the people I coach is actually on the board for another nonprofit, nowhere around here, that fixes cars. And they're organized differently than we are. But one metric that we look at in the auto repair world is, what is your overhead cost for every build hour that you actually sell? Or that you complete. So your total overhead cost divided by the number of build hours, so the overhead cost per build hour. And this nonprofit, their overhead cost per build hour was 3 times what our overhead cost is at our shop, at our for-profit shop. It would have been cheaper for that nonprofit to raise the money that they did, and this nonprofit is big, and they raise over $1 million every year. It would be cheaper for them to just take that money and buy car repair at regular auto repair shops than it would be to run the shop that they actually have, because they have a building and they have their own shop. It would be more efficient for them to do that. And now it's ridiculous that it shouldn't be that way. Our nonprofit has lower overhead costs than the shop does, and it absolutely should be that way, but we got to be thinking about that way. And so getting business owners that are thinking about that to make sure they run their business efficiently is really, really important. This is a great example of how you can use your God-given talents, right? Use your passion to be able to help people and be the hands and feet of Jesus. Like, this is an opportunity that you have that just other people don't have. And we can take this blessing that we've had on being able to be here today and be able to have these opportunities and bless other people with it. So a few tips and tricks I want to get into. We're running low on time here, but a few things that we learned, and some of these things that we kind of just stepped into and didn't realize, but number one is, if you're going to do this, when you're trying, unless you have an easy source of clients, and maybe that you want to help, if you're going to help people, how do you find those people that you want to help? And there's some people out here that have a business that they already have a list of needy people that they can identify, that they can help and make impact. But if you don't have that easily, don't try to be the case manager and bring a bunch of people in and filter out and see who you're going to help. It's going to overwhelm you and take a ton of time. There are dozens and dozens or hundreds of nonprofits out there that will already have case managers and already have relationships with these people that will help filter the people that you can work with. And so we work with over 40 different organizations that go through their client list and say, these are the people that are a good match for what Fix It Forward can do. And they bring those people to us. And so it actually not only will save a bunch of time from you, but you're making their nonprofit more efficient because you're solving one of the problems that they were struggling to solve before. And so, when you look at this, the YWCA, they're spending all this time getting housing and getting job training and getting mental health and getting childcare so that these people that they're working with could become independent, but then they got stuck on this transportation. They couldn't actually get the job because they didn't have transportation. If we can fix that one little problem, then all of a sudden that person can become self-sufficient. They can free up that bed, and the next person can get in there. So we're not just helping that person, but we're helping the nonprofit be more efficient. So I encourage you to find a niche, like if there's somebody that you want to help, whether it's veterans or single moms or the elderly, but there's plenty of organizations already working with them. Partner with one of them to help feed the kind of clients that you want to be able to work with. Another one is, if you're going to start a nonprofit, or do this on the side, you don't need to start a nonprofit. You can just help people. And our shops actually do this all the time. If sometimes people don't qualify for our nonprofit because we do have a bunch of rules and regulations in there, and they might just give a discount or do the repair for free or something for somebody that's in need. You don't need to have a nonprofit to do that. You can just start helping people. Now, when you do need to have the nonprofit is if you want other people to be able to participate. And if you want to be able to grow beyond your own resources, then you need to have get the nonprofit so people can have the charitable donations can be deducted for them. It becomes a tax deduction, and so you can have that credibility of having that separate nonprofit. Make sure that if you do this, that the mission of the for-profit becomes to enable the nonprofit, and not the mission of the nonprofit is to grow the for-profit, right? And this is really key. You want to say, hey, we're here at our business, regular business, so that we can help people. We can use the blessings that we have here to bless other people. Not, hey, we're gonna do some good for people because I think that it's gonna pay off on our business. If that's your purpose, people are gonna see right through that, and things are going to fail. So make sure that you always have that focus of, we're doing this business so that we can help people, not we're helping people so we can do more business. And really think about how you can step into this. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is the whole nonprofit thing, starting a nonprofit, being a 501c3 allows people to donate money to you and get it tax deductible. But as a business owner, you don't need that, because you can't double dip. You can't say, if I'm going to donate a gallon of oil to our nonprofit, I can't say I'm going to buy this and call it an expense and donate the gallon of oil and double dip and don't deduct that twice. all I need to do, and we do this all the time, our nonprofit doesn't pay for oil. It doesn't pay for any shop supplies. Our for-profit pays for all of that. And it doesn't go through and call it a donation. It's just an expense. So you don't need to go through the process of starting a 501c3 just so that you can deduct from your business. You need to do that if you want other people to be able to donate to your business and get that tax deduction. So don't be trying to say, oh, I'm gonna get this super great. People think all the time that we're doing this because we're getting some huge tax deduction. We just have more expenses. That's not a tax. Technically it's a deduction, but it's not a very good one. So anyway, I think that hopefully this is helpful for you guys, and that you can see hopefully you can see ways that you can help other people in your community with your sphere of influence and the skills that you have, because I love the idea of we want to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and we're out there. There's all this opportunity. We're so blessed with so many resources that we can help others with, and this is the best way to be part of our community and give back. So thank you very much for coming, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day.